the beginning, there was darkness. Then from the darkness came the mana.
Let me ask you a question. What do a bullfrog, fortune-telling, and magic have in common? Well, not much anymore. But once upon a time, before the great cataclysm that we ancient ones have come to call the Molyneuxing, there was a game, no, a company, that innovated, created, and even predicted the future. Now your savage, uncultured mind is probably looking at this pixelated mess of pre-Minecraft graphics, mathematically generated planar surfaces, and 3D cutscenes that could have been thrown together by a 15-year-old working in his spare time between jack-off sessions and thinking, the future? No fucking way. But I'm not pulling your leg here. In fact, I'm not even gonna touch you. You sick, unwashed, smash-playing peasant. See, this isn't just a game. It's a time machine. A window into the future, showing us some of the most forward and progressive thinking you've ever seen. The people, highly diverse and culturally enriched. In this society, your position in life will be determined by the volumetric measurements and corresponding decibel level created by the clap of one's ass cheeks as they walk through the village.
Damn, what you doing out here with all this ass? Double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon, hella ass, the sun is still out.
Now naturally, most men in this society occupy the lowest rung on the ladder because they're simply not nearly as dummy thick as the one singular woman occupying the position of thick tribal mommy. And you all probably thought that the Molyneux had no taste. In this world, as in our present one, women are vestigial, but hold vast quantities of power, while the lower male simp classes do all the heavy lifting and fight amongst each other over which girl is best girl. Like I said, welcome to your future. Enjoy your stay and don't drink the seawater. Now the story of Populous, not to be confused with Populous, is quite literally, woman had a bad dream, woke up, decided her dream was everyone else's fault, and consequently proceeded to go completely apeshit on every unsuspecting soul to ever exist in the same solar system as her. A solar system which, by the way, has not a singular fuck to give about what the planetary sciences have to tell us about celestial bodies in space and their movements across the universe. I'd say that Newton or Galileo are spinning in their graves, but their rotted corpses aren't currently rotating around a spherical object no larger than a tennis ball. You play as one of the many schizophrenic voices hiding inside the head of a shaman linked to a tribe who knows nothing about this world other than enjoyment of the color blue, attempting to ascend to godhood through the most effective form of scholarly debate, by eliminating everyone who doesn't agree with you and seizing enough power, magic, and control of your known universe to become an unstoppable god. Could this be considered the ambitions and ravings of a genocidal maniac? Maybe, but you had a bad dream, and no one apologized to you when you woke up from it, so in the end, they really had it coming. Your journey begins here as you take a perceived revenge on all your enemies. You will burn, drown, and enslave your way through entire civilizations at a rate that would impress even the colonial British Empire. And, in the end, everyone will either kneel before your awesome power or join their friends in the swamp pile. Now the game starts off with a tutorial like every other game does, where you throw human death and suffering at your problems until they go away. Each level after that is just another step along the path to your rise in power, with varying objectives to spice up the gameplay. Some are summoning invincible fire-breathing dragons, others are a race against the clock for survival because we didn't listen when they told us that when the polar ice caps would liquefy, so would the continents, all the while teaching you the game mechanics and adding on to what you've already learned. The whole point is to complete the objective, try out some new bullshit that the game hands you to play around with, conquer, and move on. But how do we conquer anything in the first place? The short answer: strategic planning, management of your slaves and their roles in your burgeoning society, and solid use of the guard post. But the real answer you're looking for? Spells. You see, you could go out of your way to convert all these wild men into enslaved simps, have them build your small city before being conscripted into your meat grinder of an army, or you can just expand infinitely, have everyone stay at home to donate their mana to your shaman girl, then convert any excess incels into a ton of priests for defense, and solve all your problems by reshaping the landscape and abusing pathing to bottleneck attacking forces. Now let's prepare you adequately for this game's present and humanity's inevitable future. If you so happen to be a man, then life is simple. You and the boys will hang out in the wilds, drinking from tainted water sources, never shaving, and getting to expire at the ripe old age of a few days old. If you happen across a woman with a stick and a mask, run for your life. If you don't, you'll be conscripted into the simp army. Spend all your time worshipping her, and, if you're lucky, be murdered by a simp from an opposing army at some point. If, on the other hand, you're not born into a life of freedom, but rather magic bullshit, then first, you'll want to build out a few slums and send some braves to live in them. Braves are your basic unit. They're your builders, your harvesters, and your reproducers. But don't worry, they don't require you for that part. I mean, take a look at this. What do you suppose those lads are doing in there? And where did that new guy come from? Also, why is everyone shirtless? Unlike the Molyneux, we may never know the answer to these questions, but every now and then, a new villager will magically appear with nowhere new to live. From here, you can either expand out your favela or begin construction on one of 3 buildings to educate your unwashed masses. Much like your standard American educational system, there's 3 options to choose from. You've got one for warriors, one for priests, and one for fire warriors. Each one of these plays an important part in being completely ignored by me and everyone else who's ever played this game. Warriors are essentially braves that have been handed a headband and a machete. The game accurately portrays their training process by cranking one out every few seconds after you send them off to be trained. Fire warriors are just warriors that didn't go to public school and can't fist fight to save their lives. They're basically gifted with the fireball spell, but all the time, and are the only standard ranged unit in the game. And then there's priests, the only unit you really need to win outside of your shaman. See, priests don't need magic, they are magic. Now, lazy modern day preachers may refuse to leave their gold-plated boy harems to walk amongst the masses, but these ones will bring their beliefs right to your door. And your only options when meeting one of these propagandists on their fatwa out into the field is to get involved in a world star level fight or be converted. Now, unlike other units, shamans are not affected by the logic and reason given by your priests, who would have seen that coming, and so any priest sent after an opposing shaman will be forced to rely on percussive correction. While constructing your empire, you'll want to send your shaman out to convert those lucky souls who manage to find themselves born outside of your current sphere of influence. One quick DM of a few feet picks and now they're yours to command. Throw these poor souls in with the rest of the braves and get them to work. As the game goes on, you may notice that some of your breeding slaves have gotten tired of living in a slum and will now begin to gentrify their area. There's nothing you can really do to stop them, and they work autonomously. All they're really doing, though, is following the ancient Chinese philosophy of turning human birth into a factory production line. And just like the Chinese, these offspring are tools for you to use as you see fit. Oh, what's that you say? A 4th unit production building? No, there's not. The cancer known as spies and the tumors of buildings they come attached to are a waste of time and space unless you're playing against another human being. Because regardless of how they're disguised, the PC always knows it's a spy and will react accordingly. You, on the other hand, will never figure out if it's a spy and will just have to live with any potential arsonist revealing themselves only after having committed a mostly peaceful protest on one of your structures. Now, there are other buildings to worry about outside of the big 3, but they're just for transport and protection. You can build a boathouse on the water to build up a boat force that sinks really easily. A balloon house for flying boats if you plan on sending your troops on a couple's cruise. And a guard tower that you can post units in to defend your land. Alongside that, there's a guard post which I didn't use a single time throughout my playthrough. And to this day, I still have no clue how to use one and have no intention of finding out. Moving on to the more fun part of the game, you have a shaman who's stuck in a shitty Tom Cruise movie and unable to die permanently. Every time you try and exit this horror show we call life, you'll find yourself respawning right back where you started. How do you and the other shamans keep coming back to life? Mana. And so as the one being so generously donated to, it's your job to protect your donators while destroying your enemies, until there's no one else receiving any of that hot, sticky worship but you. But that's not all it's good for. You can also convert mana into something that isn't a pregnancy. It can be used to cast one of 22 unique spells. Some of my favorites include Land Up, Land Down, Conversion Therapy, Welcome to Africa, and my Winged Demon is perfectly safe around your delicious children. Don't be racist, let them play. All of them are actually pretty great. You've even got one that lets you lose the game entirely. Press it. You'll have to learn to use these spells as you play the game and discover vaults of knowledge buried around the world, left there by thoughts of ages past that are no longer around to pass on their mysterious ways through further extensive use of their orifices instead. So normally you'd use mana to cast your spells, but there are other ways around this problem. One way is to find a stone head, obelisk, or totem pole that can temporarily grant you limited use of the spell, but keep in mind you have to worship these objects first before they'll do anything for you in return. Aside from all of that, the music is particularly juicy and does a good job of enveloping you in the game. Just thinking about it gets it stuck in my head again, and for a while after playing the game I could even hear it in my dreams. The sound effects and the random bullshit that the sprites yell out are great. They just don't make them like they used to. You can lose an entire sense of direction by accidentally rotating your view, and the game blends its archaic 3D graphics with its sprite work to a level that's just not seen in most modern games. So if you enjoy strategy, gigantic world-altering spells, and you manage to escape the staff in your nursing home long enough to download it, I highly recommend playing this game twice. The first time around, clean and straightforward, as God intended, and the second time in game journalist mode, smiting infidels as you please and taking revenge on how frustrating some of the levels can be when you don't have cheats. Personally, I got my copy off of Good Old Games, but I'm not sponsored by them or anyone else, so you should probably know that there are other methods for obtaining a copy of the game. Not that I endorse such behavior openly. But a big thank to all my subscribers, both old and new. You've given me some motivation to try out some new stuff alongside shitting out a new world video every now and then. Also, I'm now officially no longer homeless. I've acquired a piece of land by right of conquest after challenging the meth-riddled creature that previously inhabited this cave in a battle of wits, and winning by the virtue of simply not being a crackhead. It's an old house, and it has its quirks. But it's what I consider home now. Anyway, once things are a little bit more set up, it'll be right back to more videos. Soon. Maybe. Bye.